Now, Vandersloot himself had a reputation on the island, but I want you to refresh our memories to what it was. I don't want to be wrong in describing his reputation. Go.
Well, you know, he's been known to have problems with anger management. He flies off the bed most often. At school, he was in a few problems himself. He's been in trouble with kids over there. He's been in trouble at places where he goes to drink. He goes to conquer girls in these nightclubs. He uses some pretty unusual habits, like dropping things in the drinks of these girls, of having someone else do it. His whole behavior is that of a kid that is completely out of control.
Now, how do you know that he drops drugs in the drinks of women? How do you know that?
Because kids that go to school with him at the International School of Aruba, he has bragged about this with them. So they have been informing us of all of this. So that's how we know it, because he's been bragging about it at school.
All right, so this was a 17-year-old kid who was doing the bar scene in Aruba, hanging out at the casinos, as you put it, trying to conquer these tourist girls who come in. And he had a reputation as a fast guy. Now, that doesn't speak very well for his parents, you know, letting him hang around in the bars and do this kind of stuff, does it?
No, of course not. His father had absolutely no control over him, or was very permissive with him, letting him get away with everything. His father is also known to have been seen with him, even being a substitute judge, gambling in a casino.
Really?
And he knows that the guy drinks, and he still tolerates this. He's underage. He shouldn't be drinking anywhere.
That's right.
Much less gambling with his father.
Well, the worst thing is the report you have of him drugging, you know, doing the date rape thing or whatever the drug is in the drink. Now, his mother told us that he graduated from school and was accepted by 6 American colleges. Did you hear that? Is that true?
I hear that he was accepted at one of them with a partial scholarship, that he was a very good student at the international school, and that he graduated with honors.
Do you know what American college that was?
No, it's not an American college. It's an American school that functions here in Aruba.
Oh, it's in Aruba?
Where, yes, sir. It's at Valero Refinery for the expatriates that work here, specifically.
Okay. Well, with the Dutch behavioral people coming in, knowing what you know, we assume they've done their research, as you have, and knowing he has anger management problems, knowing that some of his classmates have made allegations about his behavior in bars, you know, it seems to me that there's not a lot of wiggle room for this guy. I'll give you the last word.
No, there isn't. I think that if these people do their work, and we have the best references of them, they're very good in their work, and they will get to the truth of what's wrong with the character of this boy.
All right, Mr. Mansour, as always, we appreciate you helping us out and being very frank. Thank you very much.
And in punishing heat, we watched Natalee Holloway's family scour the island of Aruba and battle local authorities in their desperate search for Natalee. Dave Holloway says what we have seen on TV is only part of the story. In a new book, he reveals for the first time what really went on in Aruba. Joining us here in New York is Natalee's father, Dave Holloway. Nice to see you, Dave.
Nice to see you, Greta.
I think the last time I saw you was a landfill at about 110 degrees in Aruba.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, it's like it was pure hell down there.
Tough conditions. We went through a lot in Aruba, and still are going through it. Very difficult times.
When the cover of your book, I want to jump to the thing that struck me most, is it talks about, that says, the tragic, untold story of Natalee Holloway and corruption in paradise. That's the first time I've heard you say sort of publicly the word corruption. I mean, you kept a nice game face all summer and fall. Corruption? Corruption,
yes. There was a lot of things that occurred on the island before Natalee got there, and we addressed some of those issues. But, you know, you have a 17-year-old kid that basically runs the island. He's 17 years old. The legal age of gambling is 18. The legal age of drinking is 18. The legal age of driving is 18. And here he does all three. You know, and then this happens with Natalee, and then you get a low-level police officer trying to make a decision: do I arrest these boys or do I turn my head and look the other way? And we think that they turned their head and looked the other way.
And so who's corrupt?
You know, I can't put my finger on it, but there's a lot of red flags about at least one individual, probably 2 or 3 others.
When did you first arrive on the island?
I arrived on the island June the 1st.
And Natalee disappeared. She was out with her friends on the 29th and then got into the car early morning hours of May 30th. Is that right?
That's right.
So you were there very, very short order. How did you find out that Natalee was missing?
My son called me late that afternoon on Monday, and it indicated that Beth has returned from Hot Springs and was on a jet flying to Aruba. And at that time, you know, it's like, what's happened? And so we tried to call to Aruba, called the police, couldn't get anyone to return our calls, and I booked a flight out for the next morning. And once some of the students got back, they'd indicated that Natalee had left with 3 individuals. And later on, I'd learned through Matt that her airline ticket had been rebooked, and it was done as a precautionary measure so that she wouldn't miss that flight. So I ended up getting there a day later.
So you were hopeful that she was just getting another flight coming home, for all you knew?
Yes.
When you got there, there came a time when you were asked for money. Who asked you for money, or asked you if you had any money?
Well, let me back up a little bit. When we arrived on the island, we immediately rented a rental car, and we're looking at 2 days after she was reported missing. I went to the first police station. I asked the lady in charge at the front desk, and I said, I need to speak with the detective who's in charge of Natalee Holloway's case. And she asked someone to come up there, and they summoned about 10 police officers up there, and they didn't know anything about it. And then finally one looked at the newspaper, and he got excited, and you know, most Arubans are very, very helpful, and he got excited and says, there it is in the newspaper. And it struck me that I said, boy, something's wrong here. So they directed me to the other end of the island. I got lost, ended up at another police station, same story. Didn't know anything about Natalee's disappearance. When we walked in and met the lead detective,
Who was which one at that point?
Dennis Jacobs.
Okay.
I identified myself, and I was obviously stressed out at that moment. And the first thing he says, well, how much money you got? And it's like, I fell out. Our brothers looked around and couldn't believe it. And then we finally settled down, went off in the back room, and he told us, well, just go on down to Carlos and Charlie's. Said, this happens all the time. People come up missing, and they miss the flight, have party too much, and so on and so forth. And just go down there and have a beer. And I was thinking, well, you know, what about a search? And I was told, well, why would you want to do that for? And I said, well, that's what you normally do when someone's missing. He goes, no, I'll just go on down there and have a good time. But he says, watch your drink. That's one thing you better do, is watch your drink.
Why?
He said, people put stuff in it. He told us that several times. GHB.
And you think if you'd put money on the table at that time for the police, would that have made a difference, you think?
Well, I'm not sure. I've wondered about that in the beginning. You know, my brothers also wondered about that. It came up a second time, probably 3 or 4 months later. He asked us how much money we had. Now, I thought he was asking for reward money that Natalee was located, and then he kind of changed the subject when I didn't catch on.
We didn't catch on. Well, we're going to have you stick around. We've got more on this book, but it's the new book, just to hold up to the viewer, The Tragic Untold Story of Natalee Holloway. Brand new book out. Dave has now written about his daughter and this heartbreaking search for her in Aruba. We're going to have much more in just a second.
You did it, don't take a poly from me or anyone else, because you won't know. If you did not do it, you're foolish. And the question I'll ask you is, if you intentionally killed her, if it was an accident, I can help Paul. And if you guys were partying, even if somebody had given her a date drug, I'm sure she had sex with all of you. You're surprised how simple it was. Well, let me ask you this, that for $25, you can pay a bartender to slip your date, a date rape drug on her drink. Does that happen?
I never done something.
No, I'm not saying you. I mean, have you heard that happen?
I haven't heard the bartender struggling. I know there was a third call. I heard they slipping that into things. Very quite frankly, just like a slut. Not like one. Would go in a car with 3 strange guys, and her mother claiming her to be the goody shoes. Not with the BS already.
All right, I'm going to be honest, Beth, it sounds to me like somebody's been having a conversation with this guy. The best defense is a good offense. What you do is go after the victim. What was your reaction?
Oh, exactly. And, you know, when he's describing Natalee and how easy it was to get her into the car, well, you know, there's also a connection with Joran Sloot. So he has a so-called illegitimate half-brother who's a well-known drug dealer on the island, and his name has been a person of interest in Natalee's case. And of course, you know, I'm sure that they had slipped something in her drink. Of course it's going to be easy to, you know, kidnap a young female American tourist and rape her with 3 men if she's drugged. I mean, she didn't stand a chance, not a chance, with these 3 Aruban boys.
Well, I think that's absolutely clear. Have you been able to get any more information from the other young people that she was with at the time? Any more information that would be of value to authorities?
No, you know, that really has not been a focus. I mean, they have, you know, they've questioned them and tried to find out if there was any other pieces of information that they could use, but you know, it all boils down to these 3 suspects and the father. They know exactly what has happened to Natalee, and also, you know, it's so clear that Natalee's not drunk, that she's drugged, because Joran, even in his interview with the Current Affair reporter, he has Natalee talking about a lot of strange things, and you know, and I read his statements about how he has her coming in and out of consciousness. I mean, that sounds like she has been drugged and not just you know, had been drinking. As far as in print, that Joran van der Sloot specifically states that he has sex with my daughter at his home at 1:40 a.m. on May the 30th. I don't know how much clearer it needed to be. He also has it specifically stated how Natalee is coming in and out of consciousness in his statements. You know, if that doesn't constitute, you know, the elements of kidnapping and gang rape within Dutch law, I don't know what it would take.
What about the other young women we were hearing for quite some time, one in particular that was going to go to the authorities, that lived on the island, that had been attacked in a similar fashion by Joran? Have they come forward? Have they disappeared?
Oh, absolutely. They did come forward, and they, you know, were able to, they gave their statements in front of the authorities on the island with the presence of their attorney, and, you know, these 2 of them had come forward. I believe one was an 18-year-old girl, and the other one was only 14 years of age, that were coming forward and having statements that Joran had drugged them and raped them.
Earlier today, you met with someone who is an acquaintance of Joran. She doesn't want her name revealed. How old is she?
She's 18.
An American?
She is American. She is from New Jersey, and she had an encounter with Joran at Carlos and Charlie's in April of '05.
What did she tell you about that encounter?
The circumstances are so similar to, I can just picture it being Natalee in there that night. She and 2 friends, they enter Carlos and Charlie's, and what's so unique about this is I think on the right side you enter Carlos and Charlie's and you have to show an ID, a valid ID. On the left side when you enter, it must be, I don't know if it's a special pass, if it's a VIP card they issue, I don't know, but you know, Joran, of course, can enter on the left side. He comes into the Carlos and Charlie's. I think he approaches her right off, you know, and it's almost as if he begins to, you know, sell himself, and he has even a guy come up, a friend of his, he was a short guy, and the reason why we knew that, he had black hair and light skin, is he had to reach up to put his arm around Joran, and as if to sell him to these tourists and talk about how rich he is. And something else that they noticed about Joran was how he was just continually scoping Carlos and Charlie's, and he also pointed out to Deepak and Satish that was sitting over, ironically, in the same stools that they're seated in the picture that's been all over international media. That must be their little roost that they sit and wait in while Joran is doing his work, and referred to them as, you know, these are my gambling buddies. This is who I play poker with. So, you know, it's showing what a close-knit these 3 are. And also, as Joran is taking the girls around in Carlos and Charlie's, to every local kid there, he's giving them that grip handshake, the guys, kissing all the girls on the cheek, so he knows everyone knows him. And something else, when he goes up to the bar, Greta, he just leans over the bar, tells the bartender, I need four shots of 151. These girls didn't have any idea of what 151 is. I'm not even sure I know what it is and the potential that it could do to you. And, of course, he has an open tab at Carlos and Charlie's. He's just able to tell the bartender, you know, line me up with 4 shots of 151. You know, it just shows that he has had this predatory-type behavior there is a history.
Where is the, he sounds slick from this description.
Oh,
he sounds like a slick young guy, but he's still got that huge leap to, to criminal conduct. There is still that leap.
Exactly, and I think what to me it was leading to is, look at Joran. He's working it so hard. It's close to closing time. Again, he waits till it's almost closing time. Second scenario of this, second similarity of this, it's these girls' last night on the island. Again, Carlos and Charlie's is closing at 12 a.m. that night, so he's having to work a little faster because due to the prior night, they'd had a fight break out with some high school students and the local students there, so they had to close early the night that they were there, 12 a.m. instead of their normal 12:30. And then he's just, he's trying to get their numbers, and then he's trying to get the girls to come out of Carlos and Charlie's after they've been dancing for a while. He encourages them to come out with him to the deck, and they're being very cautious, and they're coming out with him. He's just an excellent at baiting them and being persistent and just working it and staying with them. Continuously just scoping out Carlos and Charlie's, just stalking the entrance and exit. So it's describing a predator.
How certain is this young woman who you talked to that it was Joran and not somebody else? Was it a one-night meeting with Joran?
She's so certain of it that a girl that was with her in the group has actually a picture of Joran with one of the girls that was there that night. That's how certain they are that it's Joran.
How did you meet this person?
We just happened to run into each other. It was nothing planned. It was just meant to be a coincidence, and we ran into each other, and that's how it unfolded.
Has she been in Aruba since April, or is this another trip back?
I don't think she had been in Aruba since April.
Any confrontation or any difficulty with Joran beyond that? Did Joran give any of them any trouble?
No, absolutely, he did not. But just being, just very persistent, and just really just trying so hard to stay with these girls, to make a connection, to continue this party on outside of Carlos and Charlie's into a cafe. It's Baja or Bahia. I'm not sure. It's one upstairs. But when I think of him, and I think of now how he was able to point out Deepak and Saltish. They're like his wingman, Greta, that are waiting there for Joran to come in and see what he can scoop up, and have Deepak and Saltish and him get the car and take off with them. It was just classic to me of what happened to Natalee, and I was thinking the only disadvantage was that poor Natalee, she didn't even have the chance to get to lay eyes on Deepak and Saltish Kalpo, to know that she was getting in the car with two of his best buddies that he gambles with, he drinks with.
In terms of this woman, spoken to the police?
Has she spoken to the police? No.
Police try to contact her?
No, they have not. What I want to do is I want to speak with the prosecuting attorney, because I think that they should hear this, and I think that this shows that Joran has a history, has a well-patterned history of this predatory behavior. And even, Greta, when I arrived on the island, do you know that I was able to describe Joran, never having seen him, was getting his description from Natalee's, from my nephew, was able to describe him. Do you know that they could come up with his name by the description of him? That's how well known
he got in about 11 p.m. on the 30th, and by about 3 o'clock in the morning on an island you found him, without a name.
Well, in 45 minutes, I had pretty much, I knew who he, just about 100% certain of who he was by just a description of this young man with a hotel manager at the Holiday Inn. So that is how, he's well known on this island, Greta.
Do this kind of business, no?
What is this business?
The business is selling photos.
Yeah, but who are the photos of?
Young girls, young unsuspecting girls.
Unsuspecting, meaning they don't know they're being photographed?
They know they're being photographed. They don't know that they're being sold as a trade, as a business.
Are these tourist girls who've been lured someplace by Freddie and perhaps the people we're talking about in Natalee's case?
No, I don't know if that's the case, no?
Well, there's been a lot of discussion about how this could be connected to the Natalee case. Do you have any idea?
No, this guy was interrogated in the beginning of the Natalee Holloway's disappearance. Yes, he was involved in the beginning in the sense that he was taken in for questioning, but then released.
Has he been somebody that's provided an alibi for either the Kalpo brothers or Joran?
He did provide an alibi for Joran, yes.
And could it be that they've rearrested him because they've determined that the alibi cannot be true and he lied?
That is one of the possibilities, combined with this other thing that he does, no, as a business or whatever.
What is it that you have learned recently about young women coming forward saying that they were raped by Joran?
You know, we were talking to 3 of them, one a 16-year-old girl, but then I had the confirmation from the police yesterday, from our sources at the police, that 3 other young women did go to the police on their own voluntarily and gave the same kind of statements to them, that they were involved in some kind of drug and rape cases with Joran and other people belonging to his group.
Is there a pattern beginning to develop which appears that the Cointelpro brothers and Joran were using date rape drugs on tourists?
Yes, the pattern is beginning to develop because more and more people are coming forward. They're losing the fear or whatever motivation to keep quiet. They're losing that now, and they're coming forward to put in their complaints to the police. Well, our people have been searching for the past 3.5 weeks for the identity of this witness that we heard about because of a domino game that took place in the prison of Aruba in which one of the Cointelpro brothers participated. Friday, he was finally found, and speaking to our people, he said that between 2:30 and 3 o'clock in the morning that Natalee disappeared, he was driving by the racket club to go to his home, and he saw the Cointelpro car parked there with Joran in the driver's seat, one of the Cointelpro brothers beside him, and the other Cointelpro brother in the back. He did not see Natalee with them. But when he drove by very slowly and very close to them, Joran tried to hide his face with his hand, and one of the Cointelpro brothers that was in the back just threw himself on the seat so as not to be seen. But he recognized all 3 of them. Friday, our people took him after a lot of convincing because he was afraid. They took him to the headquarters of the police at Bubali, and there he did repeat word for word everything that he told us, and he signed his declaration. So this places Joran and the Cointelpro brothers between 2:30 and 3 o'clock at a spot they were not supposed to be at that time. Because if we remember...
Josie, how credible is this person? And this is not the reward money speaking, is it?
No, there's no reward involved here. He just, of his own free will, made that statement to us after we heard about him from that domino game in the prison, because when one of the other guys that was playing with this Cointelpro brother, one of them, we don't know which one, told him, listen, my gardener saw you and the other 2 guys by the racket club between 2:30 and 3 o'clock. He became very pale and threw the dominoes on the table. So when we heard that story, our people began to search. We finally found him on Friday, and he was convinced to be taken to the police where he laid off his declaration. This changes the whole story that they dropped Joran and Natalee to the beach, at the beach to the north of the Marriott Club. They were at between 2:30 and 3 o'clock at some other place nearby, at walking distance from the Marriott.
But Natalee was not to be seen, at least.
No, she was not to be seen in the car with them, no.